Thanks for listening to Gossip with Celebrity, brought to you by Celebrity.com. This week we talk about the Royals and Katie Couric. We end with our weekly feature, the comments of the week. The stories, photos, and tweets we talk about can be found at Celebrity.com/podcast under episode 104. Hi, I'm Katie, the founder and editor of Celebrity.com, and I write as Celebrity.
And I'm Chandra, I'm the head writer for Celebrity, and I write as Kaiser.
So we're going to have another episode out next week. That's October 16th, and then we'll be off the 23rd. So last week's episode, which was number 103, it was on Harry and Meghan's trip to New York, was our most popular podcast ever. And we got a lot of new subscribers. I get notified when we get new subscribers on YouTube, and there were quite a few coming through. So thank you for everybody for subscribing to us and listening to us, and it means a lot. We appreciate you.
I wonder why.
Harry and Meghan. Also, I had that kind of viral tweet where I was like taking furious screenshots when they first came to New York. And I put the podcast in there.
It could be. I updated Twitter with the new podcast late on Sunday.
Yeah.
Later than you put it up. And it felt like a lot of people were looking at it. I don't know.
So, yeah, I put it on Saturday morning when I posted the podcast. But if you want to keep posting it to your Twitter on Sunday, then maybe we could get more people or whatever. I also think it's just that Harry and Meghan did their first tour. Yeah. You know, since us exit, so everyone was like, yay, let's listen and talk about it. So, and then we got a lot of nice feedback about me saying that anti-vaxxers can comment when they're dead. Which is really how I feel about them. So,
and those people are still idiots, by the way. I mean, they've been idiots for months, but we're in October 2021. And they're still like, you don't really need the vaccine. Shut up.
They have no idea. I mean, they're going to learn. If they didn't learn already, they're going to learn. Either they'll get sick or somebody like that. Well, and it's too bad. But, I mean, anyway. So I watched all of Squid Game. That's actually a series on Netflix, the South Korean series. It was really crazy, intense, and violent and awesome. I loved it.
I haven't watched it yet. It's not really my jam. It doesn't seem like it would be my jam, but I like that everyone is talking about it. It's something cool and interesting, I think.
It really was. And you didn't know what was going to happen. And it has that characteristic that we saw in Parasite and other South Korean shows I've watched where you don't know what genre it is. So sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's horrifying, and sometimes it's pure drama and melodrama. I love that about the shows I've seen from South Korea. And I think I'm going to watch the K-dramas. People were recommending different K-dramas because I usually watch just horror because that's my jam. But so I'm happy. So you've been watching Billions, right? That's on Showtime, and that ended season 4?
It ended season 5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I got into it when it was a few seasons in, and I caught up, obviously.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about it for the first time.
I love Damian Lewis, so that's why I started watching it. I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
And he plays such an asshole. I mean, he's a rich asshole, but he has some semblance of a soul. It's not just him being a total jackass 24/7. There's more nuance to his character, of course. But Paul Giamatti is the co-lead. And anyway, so Damian Lewis is now, spoiler, leaving the show. His contract was up after 5 seasons. He didn't want to come back. His wife passed away in April. And it was very clear when the show came back from the pandemic hiatus that they had frantically rewritten the last half of the season. They were saying, everyone knew he was going to leave after the season. No, they didn't. You can tell from the way they rewrote the last half of the season that they only realized just then, during the pandemic, basically, that he wasn't coming back.
Yeah, and a lot of that seems to be because he went through such personal tragedy and he has to take care of his sons now.
Yeah, and he only came back to New York for maybe a week to film. It films entirely in basically Manhattan, I think maybe a little bit in Connecticut. The end of the show, it was just sad and weird. I guess I'll keep watching it because I kind of like Corey Stoll.
Okay, let's talk about the Royals. So this week was very weird in Royals news. We got a lot of stories nitpicking Harry and Meghan, and it felt like it was kind of a letdown because their big tour was, about a week and a half ago. So the Daily Mail speculated that Meghan must be doing a beauty line or something, since the private plane that they took on their tour was owned by infomercial company Guthy-Renker. And you wrote in that article that a lot of rich people rent private planes from companies, so it might mean nothing.
Yeah, I just wrote that obviously a company like that isn't going to run their own private plane 24/7. They're going to have some sort of private plane rental company where they try to make some money off their private plane. And I just assumed that Harry and Meghan rented it out.
Yeah, exactly.
My assumption was that they really didn't have any association to the company, like any personal association to Guthy.
Bill Guthrie is the person they supposedly know. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and that's what we found out days later, was that actually they do know the one guy, and and they possibly used his house to record the Oprah interview.
So whether they know him and then he rented them his plane at a whatever rate he charged them, or he lent them the plane for some reason and is just a rich person who wants to be nice, it doesn't matter. Now there's all this speculation by the DM that Meghan's going to do this makeup and beauty line. And so what? If she does, if she does, we'll all buy it,
Yeah, people are just, British media people are just freaking out over, Harry and Meghan have rich friends, and they have generous rich friends who might loan them their private planes. That's been happening for a long time. And if Meghan does start a makeup line, I don't think she will, but if she did, yeah, of course it would be a huge business.
It would sell.
And people love her. People think she's beautiful. They love her skin. So, of course, if she wanted to have a face cream or something like that, I would buy it.
I would buy her shit in a heartbeat. Yeah, of course.
I wouldn't buy her makeup, but that's just because I don't wear makeup. Skincare? Oh, I would buy all of that.
I don't know. I read a story from her facialist and I was like, ooh, this is what Meghan does. I want to know. I want that, Of course. And then there's also speculation that they're going to move to New York. I mean, you wrote before this story came out that they could move to New York, and that came out in the DM, correct?
It was just some random royal commentator. Basically, I think he told it to the Daily Express, actually. The same thing I said. It would make a lot of sense if they bought an apartment in New York and they were bi-coastal. But he made it sound like, they aren't big enough celebrities in California. Of course they are. They're
worldwide
huge celebrities around the world. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's very possible they cribbed from your story, because I'm sure they've done that to us before. And it makes sense, too, that the Sussexes will buy a place in New York. And it might be a good business move for them. I don't know about the tax implications or anything like that, but, they could write it off. It'd be smart for them, too.
Especially if they are going to be spending more time in New York. I don't think they would want to just stay in hotels the entire time, especially when the kids start getting a little bit older and they want to start traveling with the kids.
And they have security and all this other stuff they have to bring with them, and it'd probably be easier to have their own place. So we talked on Zoom about all this speculation about Meghan's beauty line, and we also talked about the complaints that Harry needs to quit Netflix. So here's that conversation that we had.
What's so sad and funny, and it's just like what Kaiser says in a lot of these stories, they clearly don't know how things work over here. Like, oh my God, they flew a private jet by this billionaire who's gotten sued for his hair care products, like not knowing that a lot of them do that. They rent out jets to people.
Also, the point of their team was flying with them and all of the camera equipment as well. I watched A Long Way Up, all of the Ewan McGregor things, and the amount of gear that they had to travel with. I can definitely understand why anyone who's flying with camera equipment would fly private if they are able to do so. The logistics are just a nightmare.
Yeah, and their staff, they're clearly filming something for possibly Netflix or whatever they're doing. The whole thing of Harry should resign from Netflix. I'm like, Harry is not an employee at Netflix. They recycle this every single time. Harry has complete control over what Netflix puts on their platform. Then it's just going to make more people go and watch it.
I watched half of it so far. Okay. I was working on something last night. I was hysterically laughing. I love musicals and I love nonsense, so it was right up my alley. They literally had the chorus sing the words "a fairy tale in hell," like at one point. Like, it was amazing. Everything's so on the nose, like there's no subtlety. I can't wait to see what happens. I mean, I know what happens, but I can't wait to see how they do it. It's just so good.
So yeah, Lisa and a couple other people really got into that Diana the musical for how cheesy and campy it was. And like Karen was saying, it's ridiculous that they always blame Harry and Meghan for Netflix putting out content that has nothing to do with their deal with them.
And it's just another way for the British press, especially people like Dan Wootton, to just keep their nose in Harry and Meghan's pocketbook. Oh, this is how much they're making. This is what Netflix expects them to do. How dare they not keep up with this contract? Dan Wootton has no idea what Harry and Meghan's Netflix contract looks like. They have no idea how much even Netflix is paying them. It's insane to still act like Meghan and Harry have to follow some ridiculous rule that are totally arbitrary and only applied to them.
It is. And notice that we heard last week that William has that deal with Discovery or something, and nobody's nitpicking him for Discovery, which has tons of trash content. I mean, maybe not exactly related to the royals, but still.
No, we're going to blame William because Discovery has 20 million shows on serial killers. That's exploitation, too.
Yeah. So the Cambridges, last week we talked about that pub lunch that they were photographed out at with their kids, like very coincidentally on the day after the Sussex's tour ended. And those photos were deleted by The Sun a couple days after they published them. And nobody said anything about that. They just kind of quietly got rid of them.
Right. That was very interesting because only Tom Sykes at the Daily Beast really talked about it. I didn't see anything on the Daily Mail or the Express or any of the British sites. They didn't note it at all. The Sun, who had the exclusive photos, they only took down the photos and didn't take down the story. The link is still active. They still describe what was seen in the photos.
That's wild. And it really points to the fact that the Cambridges don't know what they're doing.
A lot of the commenters had the theory, which I sort of agree with, is that the Cambridges did organize the photo shoot. Yeah, of course they did. And they thought it would land differently. And instead they were being called out for blatantly setting up this photo shoot with their kids. And they hated that. And so they had the photos quietly taken down so that it wouldn't be a story anymore.
I love how everybody's calling William Burger King. Like, that's their new nickname for him. That's pretty funny.
Not to criticize our lovely commenters, but all of the acronyms, they give me a headache. Like, there are too many acronyms, you guys. You have to stop. It's like TOBBB. I'm like, what?
Okay, I don't know them all either, but sometimes I'm like, yeah, I don't get them. So there have been a lot of weird and beginning pieces about Kate and the Cambridges in general. There was one in the Daily Beast, which talked about a little vacation they took, which wasn't too far. And they said they wanted to be called William and Catherine by the staff, and that they still hang out with their school friends, and that they're normal and not weird.
Oh, and they're welcome at all the best house parties in the country.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. I think William is always going to be welcome within the aristocracy, but Kate is not.
Or they'll let her come and they'll just talk about her.
I honestly think Kate has been persona non grata since she pulled that shit with Rose Hanbury.
Yeah, and the Tattler really showed that.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And Kate can have that Tattler article taken down all she wants. Those feelings are still there.
Yeah.
In her supposed social group. They're all sniping at her behind her back now.
I mean, that's what a lot of those people do anyway, but she's an easy target. So Robert Lacey, who wrote Battle of the Brothers, we've been talking about him. He used to be kind of neutral, chaotic neutral about the royals, and now he's very much pro-Cambridge. And he co-authored that piece in People last week. He claimed that William had broken the cycle of marital problems in the royal family by staying with Kate, and that they're, quote, working to ensure their children enjoy the peaceful childhood that eluded William and Harry. So it's like they're together just for the kids. And that's very similar to Dan Wootton's quote that they would stay together as long as they're both alive.
Which was extremely creepy.
And telling.
And telling. Yeah, I don't know what Robert Lacey was trying to do, if he had some sort of hidden agenda, but he did not make William and Kate's marriage sound that strong. He made it sound like they're just gritting their teeth and staying together for the kids. And he also made it sound like William is very proud of the fact that he is still married to his first wife, unlike his father, you know.
Yeah, and that he doesn't intend to leave her.
I think that's true. I think William and Kate will stay together however long William can handle it, as long as William wants it. Kate is, you know, she's ride or die, at least until she gets the ultimate prize, which is Princess of Wales and then Queen.
Ugh. So Kate is still trying to do a little something on the side to keep her name in the headlines. She went to University College London's Center for Longitudinal Studies, and they do research on child development there. Now, in mid-June, we heard that Kate was going to open the Royal Foundation Center for Early Childhood. And we didn't hear shit about it after that, because what is it? There's no there.
Yeah. It was just something shiny for her to do. She'll have a few photo ops, and that was it. There's no long-term planning with any of this. It's just Kate needs a project, and the people at Kensington Palace put together something that they think looks good, and they make a little fan cam, and they make her pose with like pie charts.
Yeah.
And then she gets to, you know, say that she opened a new center and that it's in Kensington Palace, and don't ask any more questions about it. But she's a scholar. She's an expert now. Don't worry about it. She's got it.
Yeah, that's what they do every time. And it's a very simple formula they repeat. So after that visit, there was a piece in People magazine about what's happening at the center, and they made it sound like Kate was somehow involved in it, and she just sat there and heard about it for a day, and it was very bizarre. And that seemed to me like they were letting it be framed that way so that their center would get more press and funding.
Right, but the whole People article was very oddly written.
It was.
I mean, it was Kate's office briefing the press about this university's research project. A project which she is not funding, she is not attached to. Why is Kensington Palace doing the briefing on it then? I don't understand.
They wanted to give the impression that she was involved in it somehow, and all she did was show up for a day. And the director of the center said that Kate, quote, asks the most pertinent questions. It really shows that she is really interested in the subject because she is extremely knowledgeable. It's like speaking to a colleague, really. That's what she wants to be seen as, is some big researcher, instead of doing what Harry and Meghan do, which is to elevate the actual researchers who are experts in their field and have gone to school and studied it and worked in that field for decades.
It really pisses me off what she's doing. And someone said it's so cynical, and it is. Everything is about Kate. Not even like Kate cares, Kate is keen. It's just Kate is there. Kate is at this university. Kate is listening. It's not, what is she listening to? What subjects is she really discussing? What are the questions that she's asking? It's just, Kate is posing. She's in a little mask. Kate is at a university.
We didn't even hear how their research benefits kids or little kids that are benefited by it. She's done some work with families and stuff where she's highlighted charities that are working with the families and the good they're doing. But you're right, it's cynical. It's like, ugh.
It really bothers me that she gets away with it too.
I think it's easy because it's so, like Kate, it's very superficial. And they assume people are going to be dazzled by it and find it impressive and then move on. And I'm sure some people do.
And when I was covering Kate doing the stuff with the Holocaust survivors, she showed genuine interest. I think she was very interested in that as a larger project for herself. And she wasn't making it all about herself. She really wanted to talk to those elderly survivors. And I just wonder how much of the Keenwell Center for Early Childhood Development, how much of that is just Kensington Palace saying, we need to put her with kids. Let's do some busy work with Kate and kids, because that's nice and soft and no one will really care.
Maybe, maybe that's why it seems so superficial with the focus on her, because she doesn't care.
Right. Then how hard would it fucking be to just create a little bit more substantial busy work with her and the elderly and Holocaust survivors, because there aren't that many left, and she could talk about that. She's almost 40 years old and we're still like, oh, she needs a little project.
And they're still talking about how it took her 10 years to get settled. I mean, they're still talking about that. All right, let's talk about Katie Couric. This story is still absolutely bonkers. I cannot believe it. It blows my mind. So the Daily Mail first had exclusive excerpts from Katie's memoir. And when you wrote that up, I was like, no, it can't be that bad. There's no way. And I asked you to add another line, like, oh, maybe the Mail is interpreting it through this slanted lens. But no, it's worse. It's way worse. Her biography is called Going There, and it's out October 26th. Wow, she is just a terrible person, and she decided to come out with all this like it's perfectly normal.
Yeah, and I think that you were right to ask me to add that line, because so far we haven't gotten huge excerpts. We've only gotten a quote here and there, and people are just like, holy shit, I read this chapter and this is what she's saying and it's horrible. And we are getting it third hand or second hand.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, she's just a crazy misogynist. She competes with every woman. She hates younger women because she thinks they're trying to replace her.
And the thing is, she has no self-awareness about this whatsoever, because she put this in the book. Like,
yeah.
Why would you tell anybody this? I guess you're terrible and you don't realize you're terrible. So that first excerpt that we heard was that she refused to mentor other women because she saw them as competition, and it would have been self-sabotage. And she told that story about Ashleigh Banfield coming on to the scene, and she wrote, quote, I'd heard her father was telling anyone who'd listen that she was going to replace me. So Ashleigh works at News Nation, which is, it's a channel I've never heard of, but she responded to that, and she said that these revelations hurt her really bad and that her dad didn't mean it that way. He just said that he was hoping she would get a desk job like Katie's, because at that time, Ashleigh was over in Afghanistan and it was really dangerous for her over there.
Yeah, and when Ashleigh first made that statement, I was like, ooh, the penny's going to drop for her. She's going to look back on her career and think, oh, God, was Katie Couric sabotaging me this entire time? And a few days later, she did come to that realization. She gave an interview where she was like, holy shit, is this why my career was derailed like circa 2004?
When she came back from Afghanistan and they put her in a closet, like to work, they moved her around the office. Yeah. It sounds really terrible what Katie did. And she's telling us about it.
Yeah. Here's the thing. And here's why I think you were right to make me change that a little bit, is that it's possible that Katie Couric is saying all this bad shit, and then by the end of the book, she's like, and now I realize why I'm wrong. Here's the lessons that I've learned. I don't think that she's actually doing that. I think that the book is just horrible, and it's her one-upping everyone and thinking that she has the upper hand still, and that she's still America's sweetheart, and no one gives a shit about her, actually.
But she just canceled herself. Like, she could have just lived with her millions of dollars. And she does like little interviews on Instagram. I watched one she did with Kate Hudson. She could have been fine and kept her reputation if she didn't spill all this tea about herself.
Or just frame it differently. Just say, I was a horrible bitch 20 years ago. Here's what I've learned. Yeah. I think people would have responded to that a little bit better. It doesn't feel like she's learned any lessons or grown as a person.
And to make it worse, she comes across as very sympathetic to Matt Lauer.
Yeah. Oh, God, that's all the stuff about Matt Lauer was disgusting. The way she
framed it
seemed to be lording it over his victims.
She's a horrible person.
Oh, yeah.
So, she said she called him after he got fired. And then in the book, she called him a decent man. She's a despicable piece of shit. But the real gossip is between her and her ex-nanny. So she claimed her nanny was awful. The nanny was trying to ruin her marriage to Jay Monahan, and he passed away in 1998 from colon cancer. And, she admitted the relationship with the nanny was codependent. So that nanny talked to the Daily Mail. She didn't mince words. Like, she told some anecdotes. You talked about that today. You want to say what she said?
Well, I mean, the nanny was just going hard as a motherfucker.
So she said that she would have to tell Katie to take a shower over the weekends because she wouldn't take a shower. She'd leave her shit all over the place. Now, I've seen an interview with Couric where she admitted this. She said that Jay was the clean one and she was the messy one. And yeah, so I guess it was worse than that. And then the story that you made the headline was that Katie had picked her nose and left the boogers like in a row on a pillow while they were on vacation. So she left this for somebody else to clean up. I mean, it would have been for somebody else to clean up at her own house too. And Jay, her then husband, showed it to the nanny and was like, that's gross, right? Who does that?
Yeah.
Like, my kid never did that when he was little. I mean, that's creepy and gross.
Yeah, I mean, the whole story is bonkers. And the nanny wouldn't have even come out and spilled all of this disgusting tea if Katie Couric had just kept her out of it. Don't use your memoir to, like, bash a poor nanny.
And we had an anecdote in the comments about Katie. Someone ran into her at a play in New York, and her kids were really naughty, and she ignored it. And then she told the nanny to stay like that with one of the kids, and she just left. I'll link that here. I don't know if it's true. I can't verify if it's true, but it sounds true based on everything we've heard about her.
Yeah, and we're hearing all of the worst stories from Katie's own mouth.
Right?
So now every bad story you've ever heard about Katie Couric, it feels like it's been confirmed.
Right. And
by
then
Katie
her
Couric.
Ex-colleagues are like, no comment. I mean, Ashleigh Banfield was pretty gracious at first. And then, she was like, yeah, I think she did wreck my career like we were talking about. But
Deborah Norville gave a one sentence, like, this is devastating. Matt Lauer hasn't said anything. I guess he's still biding his time. He still thinks he can have a comeback.
God, I hope that guy.
Al Roker hasn't said shit.
Yeah, Al probably knows where the bodies are buried in Katie's book. All right, let's move on to the comments of the week.
My comment of the week is from the story about Kate and her supporting greater in-depth research and like taking credit for all of these PhDs work.
Right.
So Amy B says, the way the visit was promoted almost made it seem like Kate's research center was involved in UCL's project. I wonder if KP have realized that they're in over their head with this busy work. I think an easier project for Kate would have been encouraging children to take up a sport. Again, that would have been such a natural fit.
Yeah.
That would have been great for Kate. And like, why are we doing a better job suggesting things to Kate than her own staff?
Because people who are good at their jobs like us don't end up working for the royal family. And when they do, they leave in disgust because it's so incompetent,
Yeah, she loves sports. She loves to get in jeggings and like throw a ball.
Yeah.
Let her do that. Let her do that every week.
Remember when she was even planting trees? She looked happy to be planting trees. Like, that's fine.
Oh, God. That just made me remember, like, the months and months that she was promoting that stupid fucking garden.
Oh, the garden, yeah, where she, like, made a little bench and let the landscapers design the rest. They really hyped that garden, right?
She had, like, 20 events for it.
All right. So my comment of the week is from that post about how Meghan Trainor had toilets installed right next to each other, so she never had to be apart from her husband. Now, she told this to her brother, or her brother outed her on a podcast, and she had to admit it because her brothers live with her and her husband, Daryl. So Bookie says, when I'm on vacation with my husband and we are in a small room with only one bathroom, if I need to poop, I will go to the lobby.
I hate sharing a bathroom like that. Oh, I hate that.
I'm really lucky right now in my new place, and in my old place too. We had enough bathrooms, so my kid had a bathroom and I had a bathroom, and that really worked out great. But even when I've lived with my ex-husband and we only had one bathroom, no one's bothering the other person when they're doing their business. Like, you don't go in there. And she had a follow-up tweet where she said that Daryl will come visit her when she poops, but they've only pooped together once. Like, please do not dig that hole any deeper. Like, that is gross, right?
It's just, it hurts me as a private bathroom person. Like, I live alone with cats, and I hate that one of my cats always comes in to visit me in the bathroom. I hate that. Like, I will close the door on his stupid little face if he tries to come in one more time. I am a private bathroom person.
I am too.
Let me do my thing in peace.
When my kid was little, and if I was peeing and he desperately needed to talk to me, I'd be like, talk to me through the door, whatever. But that's different than if you're doing your business. Like, that is a private, sacred thing. That is, you know what I mean? It is. I don't mess with that. Whoa, that's some crazy codependency she has there.
Yeah, it's just, no,
Gross.
Don't do it.
All right, well, thanks for listening, bitches. And anti-vaxxers can comment when they're dead.
Thanks, bitches.
Thank you for listening to the Celebrity Podcast. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. If you like us, please turn off your ad blocker when you visit our site. You can text us or leave a voicemail at 434-218-3219. Our music is from AA Alto, Maiden, and via Premium Beat and Sound of Picture. Thanks again.